Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Feeling and Healing podcast. Today, I'm so happy to welcome Krystal Mills. She is a life coach and also a teacher, and she helps women make time to, get to make time in their lives to, reclaim their energy from burnout and then just really chase their dreams and live their full potential. So, thank you so much for being here, Krystal.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Of course. So I know you're really focused on, mindfulness and getting your energy back and being in the present. And you've introduced me to a tool I've never heard of before, and it's called Neurographica. So if you could just tell everybody what this is and how it's helped you, how it's helped your clients, kind of bring them back and be mindful and help them, protect, perhaps like relieve some stress and in their lives.
Sure. So I think every time I talk about it, I explain it a little bit differently because it's a really it's an amazing modality, but it's multi-layered like a lot of other modalities. So Neurographica is kind of like art meets self-development and psychology.
Huh.
Basically, we have an intention, we have something that we want to shift or change, and we work our way through a drawing with that intention. So there's a few different paths we can take with it. We do coaching, we can do workshops, and depending on which path you take, you start to see different shifts and changes in your life. So the way I found Neurographica was probably 3 or 4 years ago now. And I was searching for some art stuff online for one of my classes at school. And I came across this modality. And I didn't know what it was. It was kind of confusing. It had different steps and layers, and I YouTubed and I couldn't quite put the pieces together until I found my instructor. And so, what I found first was it's a basic user course. So, it teaches you the practices of Neurographica and how you can use them for self coaching. So, it's hard to explain in a way because it's a really visual
Yeah.
medium. Like you're literally drawing lines and shapes and colors, and they represent different things. So my first introduction to Neurographica was that basic user course, and I got shifts in everything from like motivation to work out and
Wow.
looking at some money goals. Like you can use it for whatever shift or change or goal you are trying to achieve in your life. But there's also this other side of it that helps you to tune in and get quiet and mindful and like regulate your stress and like metabolize stress. So it's a lot. It's I could talk about it for hours because it's got so many different layers. But the way I found it was kind of by accident, but probably not really by accident. And I was just seeing so many changes, positive shifts in my own life,
Mm.
that I'm like, okay, I need to do the next level, which is Neurographica specialist. So then I became certified so I could use it with my own clients.
Oh, that's amazing. But I love learning about any new modality and especially modalities that I mean, I'm sure you learned this in your class or you would know better than me, but I have this connotation which I think is true and just based off of me as a student and you would probably know as a teacher as well. When I write things down or I use like my motor skills versus typing, the my brain my memory is just a better it's a more rich experience, let's just say that, versus typing.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And with the Neurographica, the other way I've kind of thought about it as well, if you're familiar with coaching, it's
Mm.
like coaching with a visual. So
Mm.
when if you've done any kind of life coaching, you're dumping all your thoughts out, you're talking things out. We do that in a coaching session with Neurographica, but we are also drawing something that like is a visual representation of the thing that you want to
Yeah.
change or shift. So it like anchors it in that extra layer. Same thing as like you're saying with the typing or writing things down. It's that different connection to your brain because that's the other thing about it too. It's neurographica. It's
Yes.
neuro like neuron. We're like rewiring the pathways in
Rewiring,
your
yep.
brain, like neuroplasticity. Yeah.
I was actually gonna you just took the words out of right out of my mouth because not I'm not an expert of the brain, no, by any means, but I am interested in our brains 'cause obviously they're the control center of our world. And I mean I think as you know, I know, as we both know as coaches, mindset and reframing. That's why, like, therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy are so powerful because we do have neuroplasticity, excuse me. So I could only imagine how powerful this work is with your clients because you're really able to maybe make more tangible progress, using this visual medium.
Absolutely. And so and the process, I mean, the process you can do a small neurographic drawing in like 10 minutes, or you can
Hmm.
do a workshop is like an hour and a half, 2 hours. The way I think about it is if you've taken an hour and a half or 2 hours out of your week to
Yes.
really think about this intention, this thing in your life that you want to shift or change, and you've drawn about it and thought about it, by the end of the process, you're more motivated to do it. Like you've
Hmm.
spent enough time thinking about it that by the end of the process, because in the process in Neurographica in one of the drawings, there are steps. It's an algorithm that I walk you through. People worry
Okay.
about not being able to draw. You don't have to be able to draw. I am walking you through every step of the process. And it is more about the process than the finished product, even though you might get a really pretty drawing in the end. But
Yeah.
you're processing that thing that you're thinking about on different levels so that by the time you get to the end, you have an idea for your next step, an action,
Mhm.
something that you're going to take, to sort of progress yourself. But the other bonus is you have an actual picture, you have a visual to like
Yes.
put up on your fridge or in your office so that every time you walk by it, you're like, yes, I said I was going to do that. And so this is my next step. So I love it. I love
Yeah,
this
having
medium.
kind of like that posted on your mirror, like I do that, like having that, that little reminder being like, because like, you're right, it is easy to get lost and not be anchored in what your goal is. But if you have a visual medium to see it every day and to be like, oh, yep, um, I'm big too, I'm sure too with your clients of making things, like a practice. Which I'm sure Neurographica works, after one workshop, but I'm sure if you do it sequentially or one after another, I'm sure it's very impactful.
Yeah, so you can definitely get shifts with one workshop, but that usually is the question after. It's kind of like I did the drawing, so now what?
Yeah, yeah. So like now what? Yeah.
Exactly. So it really depends on what you want, what the person wants. If something came out of the workshop and you want to go deeper, then your next step would probably be some one-on-one coaching just
Hmm.
in that thing that you're after. Because a workshop is, 10 of us in person or online, and I'm guiding us through. I'm doing the talking while you're doing the thinking and the drawing. But in coaching, it's one on
Yeah.
one or it's a small group, and so it's really more personalized. Um, I also on my website I have lots of different workshops. So if you did a workshop on, calm, maybe there's another one that sort of links in as well. So it might be a workshop, a standalone, but then you're like, oh, there's another workshop that makes sense to kind of go along with calm. There's one on clarity. I think I just want that because it's the it just everyone's different. Some people like the live and some people like on demand things that you can do yourself. So as far as that next step, it really depends on the individual and like what they're really after and their schedule and their season of life and all that kind of stuff
Yes.
too.
Yeah, no, because I know you work with specifically a lot of women, right, who are kind of in there. I would say, like you say, for like 40 plus, kind of like in there, like they're kind of all their roles are kind of like lessening, and almost like they just finally have time for themselves. So I would love to shift the conversation and talk a little bit about like self-care because I know you help women with prioritizing themselves and self-care. And something I'm finding, and I love this conversation that I'm having with other guests as well, is I think like what truly is self-care, because I think there's this like, let's say social media version of self-care is like going to the spa, getting your nails done, but like that's not like that's a form of, yes, taking care of yourself, but I guess there's a difference between like self-care and taking care of yourself, like and in my world, like I think self-care goes a little deeper than that. So I don't know if you want to share your thoughts on, you know, what you feel like self-care is, and I would love to hear what you think.
Yeah, no, so self-care is something I'm super passionate about because I became burned out a number of years ago, and a big part of it was that piece was lacking,
Mhm.
that that caring for yourself. So I'm same thing, as far as getting your nails done or massages, like those things are awesome. Those things are
Yeah. Oh
great,
yeah, they're great.
but
Yeah.
it shouldn't your bread and butter of self-care shouldn't be something that can get canceled. I feel like if it can
Yeah.
be like
Yeah, like
really
oh,
like
I like that a lot. I like that.
yeah, if you were like banking on this Friday afternoon massage and now, the kids are sick, whatever, and now ugh. So I think of self-care as like really simple terms. It's listening to yourself, taking the
Mm,
time to listen to yourself, because I think deep down we do know what we need and what we want. And if you're not in the habit of asking yourself, like, what do I need right now? Then it probably will be difficult to hear. But at least ask the question, like, what do I need? What do I need in this moment? And then take the time to listen to the answer and then try to do that thing. So like on the weekend, I was totally just exhausted. So it's kind of like, what do I actually need? And then I realized I haven't been outside. Like I haven't been
mm,
outside. It's
mm-hmm.
cold, it's snowy. I need to get outside, which I did. We went for a walk in the snow. It was beautiful. And so then we get home and I was just kind of like, okay, like that's now I have so much more energy. But if it really, it just kind of depends. It depends on the situation for what you actually need. And I'm in the practice now of asking and listening and tuning
Mm,
in and knowing when I'm feeling off, just thinking back, yeah, no, I haven't been outside or I haven't moved my body or I need to get to
mm.
bed early, like just the simple things. I think is where you get the biggest bang for your buck, because then after that, when you're feeling really good, then you have space to take on, a new modality like Neurographica, or
Yes.
then you can get the massage. Like there's other things that can be added in there, but I think it needs to be you with yourself, um, at the core for self-care, without having to depend on anybody else or anything else. You have to be able to care for yourself in that moment. And that's kind of, I think about it like that in its simplest terms.
Yeah, no, and I love that you kind of said like it like keep it simple so you can then do the more not to say more challenging or more maybe I want to use the word complex or maybe I'm trying to think of the word here. It's not complex. It's like kind of like do the like the immediate needs first before you dive in. Like don't like it's like self-care is I think one of those things that as you said if you kind of keep it simple and listen to your body, you'll see the small impact so then you're able to make those larger choices and work with different modalities or because I always say your body will tell you what you need. I think that in my journey, in my mental health journey, and I'm sure with you as well, like the mind body connection, the physiological is very real. And once you start listening, using your emotions, your feelings, your body sensation as signals and information, I think that changed my, like, I know it sounds so very minuscule, but, and not fight them. Like, as you said, if you need rest, don't put like, and I get it. Sometimes, we all have lives and we can't, just be like, "Oh, I have if you time and stress and lives." But if you take a little bit of time to just listen to your body and do what it needs you to do in the moment, I think as you said, you when you took that little walk, it made all the difference.
Because I think on the other side of it is if you make a practice, not like on purpose, but if you ignore those signals, you're eventually going to burn out. I think that's the other side of it. Like
Yeah.
I've been on the other side where you just keep pushing through, and you can push through, like occasionally you have a deadline, like you would like to rest, but you can't right now because you have, for a teacher, report cards are due tomorrow. So if they're due
Yeah, yeah,
tomorrow,
you
I
need
have to
yeah,
get
you
them
have
done.
responsibilities. Yeah.
Right? It is what it is. But if you do it on a regular basis where you're pushing and ignoring and putting what other people need ahead of what you need, it's only a matter of time until you kind of crash and burn, unfortunately. And so that's why I'm like, I want to prevent that or help other women, to not have to go through burnout because it sucks.
Oh yeah, no, I've been burnout. I would say many times in my life, and it's not, yeah, it's not a fun experience. Let's just say that. And I'm
Mhm.
similar to you. I don't want anybody to ever get there, but it's like it's hard. I mean, and I'll validate and normalize for it's hard. It's hard because life is life, and
Yeah.
that's why I think taking as you mentioned, these like little like micro moments and taking care of yourself and prioritizing yourself is so important. I think like too, and also maybe it's generational, but I'm really loving this, because I know every generation has their, has their flaws, but I think I would tend to say and I had a conversation with somebody about this last week, that the older generations, like they think self-care as being a little like self-indulgent or like, just like a little selfish, where I think the younger generations are seeing it as like, no, this is a necessity. And I really like that view because the whole like right, the whole airplane mask metaphor, right? Like it's like you can't help somebody else if you're not getting oxygen yourself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that shift is happening for sure, but it is hard to get past if you are someone, let's say, in their 40s or 50s and kind of grew up with the idea that you get your worth from, hard work and like like
Output.
where you get that sense of value and work, hard work from. Like it's hard to um, work past some of those things. So yeah, shining a big light on it. And I think you're right. I think younger generations absolutely are having a better balance and recognizing, no, this is just important. Caring for yourself just as
Hmm.
important as, and it's not worth burning yourself out over even with the younger teachers at school, because now I'm one of the more seasoned older
Yes.
teachers, and I'm seeing people are leaving at contract time when they should, because people have lives, whereas before, first year teacher, a couple years in, I'd be there a couple hours past, like getting stuff ready. I'm like, yeah, that was you know not necessarily a great practice, but it's what I felt like I had to do at the time. So I think we learn, like we just kind of
Yeah.
learn as we grow and as we get older and what works. But
Well, I know you're in Canada, I'm in the States, and I think it's this basically the same thing. I mean, very similar, cultures, you know what I mean? But I think we're conditioned very early on, especially in America, being capitalist and all that, like your output is what's the most important. And it's like, but if you burn yourself out and deplete yourself gaining that, is it really what's it worth? Because I've been in experiences where when I used to work in corporate America, very similar, that I got so burnt out in that environment because that's all it is. It's output, 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 performance, performance, performance. And it's like at what cost? And you end up and unfortunately sometimes you end up paying what the cost you pay is yourself. And that is like I learned the hard way that there's never again am I putting myself in that situation.
no, and it's not worth it. Like you've only got we've got this one life, we've got this one chance, and it's kind of like if you're working 24/7, like what's it all for at the end?
Exactly.
Like what's it all for? And one of my big moments was realizing, um, with teaching, it's a salary. So if I work 3 extra hours in the evening and 10 extra hours on the weekend, like I don't get any more pay or
Yes.
recognition or like what am I getting from this? It's maybe you're going to feel a little bit more prepared or those kinds of things, but you do have to weigh like there's no more benefit for me doing more work in this area. And also, what about all the hours and time that I've lost with my kids and my husband when we could have been, making memories and building, having connections. And now I get to the end. My thing was getting to the end of the weekend and it being Monday morning and being like,
And
I
you're
think I'm more
like,
tired than I was on Friday. Like I just worked all weekend. So like, what was the point of that? I
yeah,
felt like
no,
I had to do it at the time, but yeah,
oh
at
no,
what
and I
cost?
think
Like,
I want to, normalize and validate your experience 'cause I think that's I hate to say it, that's a lot. I'm sure you're not the first person to ever feel that way, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that feel that way. So, and that's like I always say to people like I'm like that is pure survival mode. Like that, like to me, like that when you just said that, like I was like, oh God, like and I've been there too, like remembering that and like it was actually really funny. You mentioned like, waking up on Monday and not like I don't last night I actually had today is because today is Monday. We're recording this on a Monday. I had a little bit of like just like nothing crazy, like just like humming anxiety. And I was like, because I listened to my body and I'm like, all right, like what's going on, Danielle? Like I go through my like Rolodex in my head of like, all right, what could this be? What could this be? But then I was like, I was like, it's not Sunday Scaries because like I love what I do. You know what I mean? But and I don't know. I just kind of processed through it. I think it was just, it wasn't anything crazy for any like trigger, but I was just like, but I paused for a second and thought, and I was like, wow, like I was like, I haven't had like like had that like Monday morning dread in like years, and I'm so thankful for that because I remember that, and I'm just like, oh, I do not want to go back there.
No, but isn't that amazing, like for you to say that? Because I'm just sitting here thinking the exact same thing. And
Yeah.
like the Sunday scaries, like it's a whole phenomenon. It's like you only get really one day of your weekend. You get
I
Saturday,
know,
but
exactly, exactly. 'Cause
Sunday is
I
like
always say that too,
crap.
because by the time Friday, like your Friday ends, and then like I always say it takes a good 24 hours to like decompress. So then by the time you're truly relaxed, it's Saturday, and then you're like, okay, and then maybe Saturday afternoon, and then you wake up on Sunday morning, you're like, oh crap,
Yeah.
Monday's like tomorrow. So like yeah, you only get like like a full 24 hours of like yeah, of like full
Ex-
relaxation.
Exactly, exactly. And so when I was able to like leave work at work and figure out why I had been overworking and whatnot, and could finally like leave work at work as a teacher, it was just like, it was so much lighter, like to have
Mm,
this amount of time, like to have pretty much my whole weekend. And also like to recognize I've been teaching for a really long time. And so if you're new to any profession, there's like growing pains, of course.
yes, yes.
I'm fortunate enough, I've been at this long enough that I can take weekends off pretty much most weekends. But yeah, same thing, to not have the Monday dreads. Um, yeah, definitely gratitude. And you
Yeah.
forget. It's like I think I
Oh,
need to
oh,
like,
I
as
know.
when you
Oh,
said that, I'm like, I need to just, hone in a little bit more on that
yeah.
gratitude because yeah,
No, yeah, I agree. I had a moment last night when I was like, wow, this is kind of great. Like I was just like I was like it's nice that like you can't like your body doesn't you guys your body has muscle memory, and I'm like I haven't felt on a Sunday. I can't tell you, and like I'm an entrepreneur, so I work all the time. Like that's my flaw, I would say. I'm working on it, pun intended, of like, and I've really tried to like, do like the work life, but like like work life balance, or I call it work life integration because
integration, yeah,
yeah, because I've learned, especially in my journey, that there is no balance. Like if you try to like compartmentalize, that gets very hard for me personally. I can't do that. So I like even if I just have to like integrate work like work is it's fluid for me. Like my work and my personal, but also that's just the nature of my business. Like I understand if you have a very separate corporate life and you know, and personal life. Like my brand is me, so it's very easy for me to incorporate my life into my work into my life because it's all me. But if like, I understand if you have to kind of put on two different hats, how difficult that could be. But I love that for you too, that you're able to, wake up these days. And how, I guess, what was that realization or what was that um like for you when you kind of like let go of that like kind of like holding on so tight to work and what was that like or like I guess what was that process like for you?
I think so. It was through coaching, and
Mm,
really I hadn't done much personal development, and
mm,
so sometimes I joke about it and say like I drank the Kool-Aid, which to me is I learned about personal development and personal growth and different tools and things like that. And for me, whenever I had gotten some coaching and had done some self-reflection, it came down a lot to perfectionism
mm,
and to the realization of the sheer amount of time that I was spending on work stuff because of perfectionism. In that, like, and so at this time I wasn't doing any coaching or anything yet. I was just in the classroom solely. And so it would be, making a PowerPoint or a game or something for a class, and then looking and realizing I spent 5 hours on this. 1 hour
mm,
probably would have done the job. So one of the realizations was just realizing the hold that perfectionism had on me, and um, the value that I was placing on, like, my work was giving me my value. And
mm-hmm.
so if my work is giving me my value, then I have to do a really, really good job at work so that I feel like I have more value. So whenever
Yes.
you realize, no, you have value regardless,
Yes. Yeah,
you have
absolutely.
value regardless of the job that you're doing. It's like, okay, so that was, one of the big ahas for me. And perfectionism, I see it as it's what's gotten me to the places that I've gotten to in
Yeah.
my life. So I don't want to like, crap on it or whatever, but it's also it's a double-edged sword that I have to be very careful of because I'm like, okay, like how much I've got to set a timer because I have a tendency to spend more time on something to make sure it's as good as possible. And now I'm aware of that. So it's like you get 20 minutes. Whatever it is in 20 minutes, that's what it is. But yeah, those are kind of the two big light bulb moments for me, I think, with through coaching.
That's amazing. And yeah, I mean, I will say like I drink the Kool-Aid, I serve the Kool-Aid. Like
I
I'm
love the
all about this.
Kool-Aid.
I'm all about this Kool-Aid because I'm like it's changed my life too. And I think like that you like hit the nail on the head. Like I always tell my clients too, like before we can even like move forward and like talk about goals and stuff like that. Like I do, and I don't spend a lot of time here, but I was like I we need to sit and like reflect and go a little deeper because you hit the nail on the head that it's always something some your decisions are always being driven by something deeper within you. So you found out it was perfectionism and you associate work with value. Like that is a pretty deep, internalization and realization there. And I will tell you too, I struggle with perfectionism to this day. Um, and you mentioned you've done IFS work, and I've just accepted it as a part of myself. It is not my core self. It is just simply a part, and it does play a role as a little manager sometimes. But yeah, I'm similar to you where it's hard because I tell this to myself all the time that Danielle, there's no such thing as perfect. I'm sure you have to you
Yeah.
everybody says that like there's no such thing as, and you're right, there isn't really, but I think we have this idea of what perfect is based off of, media and just life and what we're taught, and it's very, I would say it's something I struggle with, and to this I think I'll always struggle with too. But as you said, it's kind of like it's trying to protect me in some way. I don't know what it's trying to protect me from, but what my flaws would do to me. Maybe I have to do some more work with my therapist to work on that, but I think as you said, it also is a driver of like, like it's a motivator. It's like, all right, like, like it's if not to say if things are perfect, they're better, because that's not the narrative
No,
that I'm
but I
saying
think
in my head.
it's the drive that, helped me to get places like to get my master's of education. Like you have to have a bit of a drive to complete certain things. So I don't want to, it is a part of me. So I don't want to, push it away. And like you said too, what's it protecting me from? For me, I think it's like judgment. It's the judgment and
Mm,
rejection. If I'm not doing a good enough job, what are they going to say? What are they going to think? Whoever they are. So I think it's that rejection piece and that judgment piece of whoever they are.
yeah,
And
right.
that's
And,
what it
and
comes
I
down
think
to
that's
for
a
me.
very real fear, and that's everybody.
Yeah.
I think if you are a human being on this planet, that like you would be and like I like love. I mean, if you have like I applaud people who have this kind of confidence, and I one day want to be there when they're like, I don't care what people think and whatever. I'm like, all right, like yes, like that's all well and good if you can get there, but like deep down, like I think we all do care. That's why we live our lives the way we live our lives. That's why we buy the things we buy. That's like some people, that's why they drive the cars that they drive, because there's this image, right, of like what we need to be. And so I think that people can say that till they're blue in the face and go, I don't care. But if you look at their behaviors and their patterns and you're like, but you do, like it's like, but then why did you buy, a Louis Vuitton purse? And because that shows me that you care what other, in my opinion, that's just my opinion, that you care what other people you care what other people see you as carrying your bag because you want it to be a designer bag. So you care what other people think because you know, that's just mine. That's
Unless they just wanted the bag. But no,
true,
I get
true. Yeah.
exactly what you're saying. Like I and I do wonder people who say like I don't care what people think. Um and I would like to care what people think less, I guess, because it would be easier if I cared
Yeah.
less. And I would, but it would be a lie if I said,
Me
when you
too.
post this, if there's comments and things and people say that, well, I do care, like, because we are humans and people make comments, things hurt. So you can be detached from it and say, like, I don't care what people think, and be able to know that whatever comments people make or those kinds of things, that it all has to do about them. But it is a real fear. It is a real, I think, a core part of being a person, a human, is caring what other people think, because you go back to, cave person times, and you could be cast out of the tribe, cast out
Yeah.
of the group if you
Yeah.
stood out too much. So I think it is a human thing to want to belong. And in
Yes.
that, part of
Yes.
that is caring about what others think so that you still belong and have that place.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you like took the words out of my mouth. Like we're built human beings to be social. We're built to connect. So if we are disconnected or doing something, yeah, like a little outside the norm, and we people do cast judgment. And now let's be honest, it never. I like to stand from, and I will question. I will, we kind of went a little. I love having conversations like this on the podcast, but I would say if people are, I like to surround myself with people that don't cast judgment, and instead of casting judgment, they present grace, and they're more, compassionate, because I found that if they're casting judgment on you, something's going on inside of them for them to judge you. I remember when like I've always been a creator, and I remember when I was like younger, I started like a blog. Like it was like when I was in college. Like it was before I was an entrepreneur. And this one girl, I had a friend, and she was like, I was like, oh, she's like, I was like, I told a couple people about it. It didn't go anywhere clearly. But and her first feedback to me was like, oh, well, there's a typo like here, and I was just like, okay, like noted. Even in my like younger, less developed, like less, self-actualized self, I was like, yeah, that's somebody who like I'm like there's something going on there, like because anybody who is happy with themselves and comes from I feel like a pure place and just is supportive of you, and anybody that truly like wants you to thrive is just supportive and does not cast judgment, even if unless asked.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it was a coach of mine too. And they said something to the effect of, whatever you're judging, because we do judge all the time. Like it's just part of being a person too. It's just a matter of if you actually, say the words to the person or not. But whatever you're judging others on,
Something
you're
that
judging yourself on that as well. So that person with the typo, obviously that's something that would be her thing, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Her
that's
thing, that
her
she's
thing.
judging
Yeah,
herself
yeah,
on that level of, rather than um taking your blog and the content and congratulating you
yeah.
on putting yourself out there and the amazing ideas, and like that might be your first thing that you would say
I
to
know,
someone.
I know. Yeah, and I remember this to like I was like in my early 20s. I remember this to this day. Like that was her first thing she said. And she was actually at the time, she was like a pretty good friend of mine. And I was just like, "Oh." I was like, "Okay." I was just like and I just took that like and I didn't get mad or didn't have a reaction, but I
Yeah,
remember thinking in my head, I was like, "Yeah, like that's not somebody that like that is a signal to me." I'm like, "Yeah, no. Like you're not in my inner
but isn't
circle."
that interesting that like years later you can still probably remember exactly where you were, and like that conversation, like that was a moment where for you that triggered who you want in your social circle. Like that's really powerful, those moments and those memories, because for you, rather than taking it as like that negative side of things, it sounds like you took it as, I want people in my circle who are going to support me, and this
Oh
is
yeah,
not
and this
feeling
was
good.
before I've done, and I actually like thank you for validating that and recognizing that because this was before I did a lot of like healing work, and that's where I feel like I mean and personal development work. This was like, yeah, I was fresh, like, I think I was even in college still, and it was like on a break from school. But anyway, but yeah, I was, yeah, I guess I had this, I don't know, this inner knowing even when I was younger.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because,
Yeah.
feedback like that could be enough to shut someone down and be like, I'm not posting anymore. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Yeah.
not posting anymore. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think also too, like, well, after this we'll end the conversation, but we like I think when we live in such, I always say like because I'm a creator and like like I'm on all the socials being you have to be a content creator now as a business owner. It's just the name of the game, and but I think like you mentioned like putting yourself out there. That took me for I don't know anybody listening who's also like in their early entrepreneurship journey. That's a process of feeling comfortable enough to be visible. Um yeah, that is in like and talk if we talk about like not caring what people think, like of course I care. Like you know what I mean? And I haven't gotten any like negative I've gotten some like weird comments, but like nothing negative so far. And I'm waiting for that moment because I think Brene Brown has this lovely story where she like did one of her famous TED Talks and she or one of her talks and she like was looking at the comment section and like that's where things go to die and like she was just like she like one lady said like oh like like less talking more Botox and she all these like really nasty but she's like if you're not like in the arena like she has that Teddy Roosevelt
Yes.
quote
Yeah.
if you're not in the arena doing what I do you have no room to cast any judgment or criticize me because you're not the one who's in the arena doing it.
Yeah, no, I love that quote. I mean, that's it right there. It's Brene Brown. Like it doesn't like you can everyone is going to have
An
people
opinion, yeah.
casting judgment and that's Brene Brown. So it's kind of like it's a matter of time. And like you said in your whenever you're new in your entrepreneurial journey, I think being an entrepreneur is a whole um course in self-development itself like that. It's like I just
Uh-huh.
wanted to start a business or I just wanted to like start coaching. And when you realize the can of worms that you have opened up by deciding to run your own
Mhm.
business and all the pieces that come along with that, like I don't know if a lot of people would decide to do it because of all the fears and the doubts and the judgment and all the new things you have to learn and everything that kind of bubbles up to the surface. And it's so much easier to just stay hidden and not post and because what will they say, like it's this whole other beast that yeah, same over here because I've been doing it for 5 or 6 years now, but the whole first 3 or 4 I was just very timid, very timid
Mhm.
of the judgment and the what are people going to think kind of thing.
Yeah, that getting over that like I guess like I would say fear of being seen
Yeah.
is a that and that's a worth thing. That's a,
Yep.
like that's a narrative I had to go through of like why would anybody care what I have to say? You know what I mean? But then like when you do develop that, your worthiness or whatever you want to call it, that confidence and then you obviously have a wonderful story to tell. I feel like we all have, and that's one thing that too I'll like end the conversation with. Like we all have special gifts, I feel. And it's your job as a person to go out in this world and figure out what that gift is. And then your purpose is to give it away, you know?
Yeah. I love that. I
Yeah.
love
That's
that.
I mean,
And no, I was
that's
just
what
gonna
I found.
and it just connects like to draw it back to the Neurographica that we started talking about too. Everything we've talked about, like the fear of judgment and the doubts and the self-worth and the business side of things, all those things are all things that I work through and process through in that
You're
modality. You know what I mean? Like it's things that you have to process in whatever way makes sense to a person, whether it's coaching or therapy or neurographic or like there's tons of different modalities out there and finding this one, I just felt was so special for me. But I love how you put that. It's like finding your thing and then having it to share with the world. I love that.
Oh, thank you. I think it's not mine. I think it's an inspiration from some quote that I read, but like I was
Well,
like,
of
yeah,
course,
like so
it's
it's always I always
yeah.
say like
You
I will
don't
give
gotta.
credit where credit's due. I like if it's not a me original, I will be like, I
Yeah,
always say like that's not my original
yeah.
quote. But Krystal,
It
this has been
totally resonates. Yeah.
oh yeah, no, and I think too, I think something as well that we I can take from this conversation is that the power of coaching, because you've mentioned that you've been coached, I have been coached, and I also have a therapist. The power of like your support, like you can't I know like it's like so like cliche, but like you look at any high performing athlete, any high performing business person, they are surrounded by a group of people. They don't get there alone, and that's I think the connotation of like, oh, and even like even and you don't have to be at your worst, you know what I mean? Of course, like people getting out of
Absolutely not.
burnout,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I feel so bad for people because I mean I had to get help. Like it's okay to ask for help. Like nobody gets out of this alone, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Having a coach, have like you can only get so far yourself. You usually people know like they know what they need. It can be hard to actually do it, but to have a coach to have those questions to kind of dig down into like what is the thing that's holding you back? What is the thing that you need to support you? Like that's huge. And having that
Yeah.
I like it's that thought partner, that accountability buddy. And if I
Hmm.
have like one person, I've had 20 in the past who have said, like, as they're talking through whatever the thing is that they're working through, they're like, just saying it out loud like makes a huge difference because you say the things in your head all the time, but unless you're talking to somebody about it, and friends aren't the same and spouses aren't the same because they love
Hmm.
you and they're just going to go with whatever. But a coach can love you, but they're going to question you,
Yes.
and you're a thought partner, and it's a different. It's all about you. When you're talking to a friend, there's reciprocating, there's a back and forth. You're not
Hmm.
just talking about yourself the whole time. Coaching, you are talking about yourself the whole time, and you are going to move forward because of that time you spent thinking through and processing and strategizing and yeah, and having that person in your corner makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and I love to like and like I'll say too as a coach and also a therapist and a person that has personal relationships. You like you're right. Like if you want to move forward and grow, like there are certain friends like in my life that like I say like I just know they're on the same wavelength as me, like they like will push me, but only if like I ask for it. And that's the one thing about like because like there's that boundary there, right? With personal relationships. It's like you can't I don't expect my friends or even my family to push me forward in my life. That is my job. Like that's my job to do. That's my job to move myself where I want to move myself. And sometimes I've learned, and I'm sure you have too, being in, relationships and having family, um, people love you and the people that support you, but like they love whatever version of yourself you are at in that moment in your life. And I think sometimes we have to, people that love us, the ones that truly love us and want us to grow, have to recognize there is going to be different versions of ourselves throughout our entire development. And if you can accept that about a person, like that's love to in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Absolutely. If we're doing it right, we're evolving. Do you really
Yeah,
want to be
let's
the
hope
same
so.
18-year-old version? Like, no, like we need to change and grow. I can't imagine being that same, 18-year-old,
Oh,
24-year-old version. Like it's yeah, there's an
agreed.
evolution
I know. I
process that
had
has to
somebody
happen.
tell me I changed like it was a loose acquaintance like a couple weeks ago or maybe before the holidays. And I was like I kind of like and I was he's like you changed a lot and I was like yeah, I was like and I was like and like I was like isn't that the point? Like I didn't say this, but I was like isn't
Yeah.
that the point of life? Like,
I
but
mean, for some people,
yeah,
and
I
then
mean,
for some people, I guess,
true.
yeah. Yeah, no, I would take that as a compliment. Thank
I
you.
did too. I took it as a
In
big
what way?
compliment. I was like,
So
yeah,
what?
I was like, I've changed. I was like, good job,
Have
Danielle. You've
changed.
been doing your work.
Change, growth, all good things. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. But Krystal, this has been such a valuable conversation. Everybody, you can find Krystal Mills. She's on Instagram. I'll put her Instagram handle in the show notes, as well as crystalmillscoaching.com if you're interested in learning more about Neurographica and her workshops. And as always, you can find the Feeling and Healing podcast on YouTube as well as Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So thanks so much, Krystal.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Of course.